All right. Well, good morning. Psyched to have you guys here. Leah, can you see the slideshow just all right from where you are?
Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to be going over the One Smart Park concept and how you can use it for field operations. We've been working on a whole bunch of new layers and stuff that you guys will find really useful, preset smart forms. And I want to show a little bit about how these parks have started using them in the field to kind of give you guys some inspiration. Uh, we're doing a we're doing a virtual training today, so it'd be really, really, really nice if I can get like 5 to 10 comments by the end of this or questions that you guys have, get some interaction going on. So yeah, really appreciate the feedback as you guys go through this. The first few minutes, the first 7 minutes or so is going to be going over the One Smart Park concept. So if you've heard this spiel before, feel free to go and grab a coffee real quick and come back for the live demos and stuff, or feed the snake in the nature center, whatever you have to do this morning that's on your to-do list. But otherwise, we'll dive right on in. So this is the idea of what we're doing today. I'm going to tell you about our approach, how people get training. I know we've got some seasonal interpretive rangers in here joining us for the first time, so I want to cover a little bit about how we use geographic information systems with parks and conservation. And we're going to show you the new layers and leave it open to some Q&A and more demos by the end of this. So we always start our slides with this, that Tobler's first law of geography: everything is related to everything else, but near things are more related than distant things. And whether you're in a park or a natural area or an archaeological site, that is really apparent, and that's what tells the story of what's been going on at these places. We've been getting a lot of inspiration in the past from different examples, different state park systems, national park systems. And I wanted to show you guys one of the things that's pretty cool. So the national park system, if you've ever been to any national park recently, they do have an online interactive map for people who aren't doing things on paper. And what it looks like is this big idea of everything that that park has showing up in one place for the public to interact with. And what we're trying to do is create a one smart park system similar to this, but that goes a lot deeper. We want to be able to have an internal viewer and an external viewer that has all the park assets that we have, the cultural resources, the biology, biological occurrences, everything that's interesting. And so as you zoom in, the public right now for the National Park Service can see all the different park assets and they start to populate. When I show you guys our Smart Parks data viewer, we're working towards this, and a lot of this information has been collected. But what you don't see is all the different other groups that go into the National Park Service. So they have their own cultural resources group and natural resources group, and they all have their own kind of lockdown data viewers like this that the public can't see. And so that's what we're creating on the side too. What we're going to do is combine all of our divisions and efforts together, because we know that you guys all wear many different hats. So you might be doing cultural stuff one day, working with the visitors, telling them where to go, and then the next day you're out there doing invasives works or prescribed fire. And so we just think it'd be a really cool idea to bring all of our GIS resources, current and in past ones, together to help with resource management. So if you're new to GIS, you can do GIS that we're creating on your phone or on the computer from the office. But the big thing we're trying to do is enable sharing so that things don't just stay on your phone or on your computer. If you ever move a park or if you ever have to go somewhere else, it allows us to share the work that you're doing with the people that are on your team, in your office, and then kind of work on these big statewide objectives. If you don't have a GIS license yet, reach out to me and Leah and we'll get you set up with one. And what we do is we have like an introductory training, which most people on this call have taken so far to get a license. And then we do a lot of these one-off training sessions to get you guys set up. So the idea of One Smart Park is a mobile and a desktop application with preset statewide layers. So for like the last, 10 to 10 years, there's been GIS data collected at parks, and you probably have some that are on old storage drives or GPS units, and everyone collected things differently. So we've been working with a lot of our field staff, park rangers, staff in the Division of Natural Resources, sorry, DNA, to figure out what should be like the standard of information that gets collected. We have some fields that are required, like what the name of the location where you're at, who you are, but we also have optional fields that let you do better management. And we're not trying to create these big, massive repositories of data. We're trying to make it so it's something that actually helps with your day-to-day management. So if there's something that you're interested in, it will help you do that kind of work better, see phenomenon that's occurring, watch trends over time, and just be able to kind of report all the hard work that you guys do in the field as well. So the two places you'll be able to access the thing called One Smart Park is on your phone, and we've got the guides on how to download that and get you set up, and the Smart Parks Data Viewer. You might see these abbreviated into acronyms, or we might refer to them as that. But the Smart Parks Data Viewer is a little bit different because it has a lot of historic data as well, whereas the One Smart Park on your phone is about collecting new current data. You also all have access to ArcGIS Online, which allows you to store your own data, create your own projects and maps, and is like kind of an even further step where you're getting that data out of the field and doing your own custom work with it. So now this is all the new stuff we're jumping into. We have new available layers. Some of these are familiar to people who have been in our trainings in the past, but we have some new ones too. I can read them off to you guys. I know you can read as well, but vegetation and invasives management. This was through a partnership with DNA where they helped us come up with what they actually use for invasives management in the field and vegetation. And it's super sweet. And Leah's going to show you a little bit about that. We have trail planning, which is really fun. Being able to do new line segments, boundary reviews, park signage, prescribed fire, trails, and event damages, kind of combining those into the same category because we do have parks like Bicentennial Mall that are more looking at damages caused by events and vendors and stuff that come in, and that might be the same with at your park. And also building up our repository, I'll say that same word again, of our landscape features and the wildlife phenomenon that's going on in our parks. And the whole idea of this is to get things out of our heads that are maybe that, every year you have new people come on and you're trying to teach them all about your park. Let's put it somewhere where everyone can visualize it, log on and see their entire park and everything that every staff member has ever known kind of cataloged in one place. So with that, I'll ask if anyone has any questions before we get into some demos of what these new layers are. Awesome. So I'll have Leah call in and she's going to go over some of our new features. And we're going to go back and forth between showing you stuff on the phone and how the mobile app works and showing you what it looks like after you've collected that data. And so Leah will give a little bit of an explanation about how you get this on your phone real quick. We're not going to get into offline maps. We'll save that until the end. If we have a little bit of extra time that talks about how to collect this data if you're without cell service, which I know a lot of you are when you're out in the backcountry at your areas. But yeah, I'll let Leah take the floor from here.
Alrighty. All right, so I'm sharing my iPad screen, but if you have a phone, it's going to look exactly the same. We're working on ArcGIS Field Map. So that's this little blue icon application that you can get in your app store. No matter if you have an iPhone or an Android, it's available. So I'm going to go ahead and click in there. This is what your profile map screen will look like. I have access to a lot more maps than most of you, so it might look a little different. But first off, the most important thing is to click on the top left and on your person icon, and you want to make sure this auto sync is turned on. So that just ensures that when you make edits in the field, they're automatically syncing when you have cell service or Wi-Fi, so you don't have to manually worry about pushing data to us. All right, and then the main project that we're going to be working on is One Smart Park. If you don't see it in your list, you just need to use that search bar and it should come up. And so you just click on it and it's going to open your map with your location. That's that little blue dot is where I'm sitting right now. Just some key features. So in the top right, you can see that there are a pancake icon. That's your layers. That's going to show you all of your data that is in this map that you can collect on or view. And you can toggle those on and off so that your map doesn't get super crowded in the field. All right. And then this search magnifying glass, you can put in an address or even lat long if you want to travel to a certain point or just see it on the map. And then lastly, I will click the dot, 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 and you'll see base map. So if you don't like the default imagery when you're working online, you can select a different base map. I really like the Nat Geo base map, so I'm going to go with that. And you can see that we are at a trailhead and there's an overlook and a campsite that have already been collected using the park assets layer. So if I click on one of those, it's going to pull up the attribute table on that feature. I can scroll down, I can see attachments of that overlook, and I can also edit. So I just click the edit pencil and that will let me update the record that already exists. All right. So one of the new layers that we have created for you is a trail planning layer. So maybe you have flagged a new trail and you want to collect it in GIS so that we can add it to your park map. Or maybe you're kind of in the planning phase where you just want to make a map to show to your manager to see the future dream that you have in the field. So to do that, I'm going to hold down on my map. I'm going to drop a pin. So this is one way to do it. You might have also seen me use this blue plus icon in the bottom right. You can also do that as well. So they do the same thing. Dropping a pin is kind of cool because you can click what's here and it's going to show you kind of what's around you and what's under you. So if you have polygons or features under your location, it's going to show you those. And I'm just going to click collect here. And I will search for trail planning and it's going to come up and it's going to make the first point at the location of my crosshairs. So in the field, ideally, I would be streaming my location as I walk this trail. To do that, I'm going to click the dot, 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 and I'll click start streaming. And so that's going to record my location as I walk the trail. And then I say stop streaming and it will have those records for me. Since I'm not moving right now, I'm going to do it manually by adding points. So I'm going to move my crosshair, add a point, move a crosshair, add a point. And you can see that there is an old roadbed that I'm following using my topo imagery. My topo base map, sorry. And we're going to go all the way to this campsite. All right. And then we're going to click T.O. Fuller State Park. And then we're going to give it a name. So today is my dog's 3rd birthday. Her name is Sipsy. So I'm going to call it the Sipsy Trail because she likes it. And then you can go into giving it a rating, giving it a blaze color, the type of material that your blaze is, whether it's the new plastic blazes or you're actually painting. You can give it a trail status. So we're going to say this is actually proposed. It's not public right now. And you can identify what can people do on this. So we're going to say hike and bike. Trail surface is natural surface. And you can see that it will automatically calculate the mileage. So this trail is 0.3 miles. And I'm going to submit. All righty. And then when I'm back at the trailhead, you can see my trail is pretty. I'm noticing there is a lot of English ivy at the trailhead. So we want to do some vegetation management to get rid of that. To do that, I'm going to click the plus icon. We're going to search vegetation management. And again, if you want to stream a polygon, so you would be walking in a circle, and you would just click the dot, 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 start streaming, and it would track your location and finish you as a polygon. But I'm not moving, so I'm going to do it manually. And snap it to that point. All right, I'm going to attach a photo so that people that I work with can see what the conditions were before I treated it, and maybe I can add another photo after it. So I'm going to choose a photo. Let's use this one. Right, we're going to say park name. If you're in a natural area, you can do that. A lot of these fields are very specific, so only use what you think is helpful to your workflow. Otherwise, the only required field is your park name. So we're going to say the target species is English ivy. My treatment method, we're going to spray it. And you can
Hey,
see, yes, go ahead.
hey, Leah. So they look like some like scientific names and stuff under their target species. How do I know if I don't know the scientific name for the species I'm treating?
Yeah, so just an example, I'm just searching English ivy because that's all I know, and it will come up. And I
Also,
click it.
the common name is also in there.
Yep, it's searchable. And then going down, you can talk about the wind and air details. And then I'm going to select my herbicide, this glyphosate. And then who helped me with this treatment, and maybe the percentage of my herbicide if I'm interested, how many plants. It's everywhere, so I'm not going to give it a number, but you can see I've treated 0.34 of an acre. We're going to say no to federal species, and then some other personnel notes. So I'm going to submit that. All right, so that's done. While I was treating for English ivy, I came across a rare wildlife encounter. So it was over here. So I'm going to collect here, and we're going to do wildlife. We're going to add a wildlife point, and we're going to attach a photo of what I saw, which was a black bear. So we're going here. Oh, there she is. All right, and then public view. No, we don't want the public to know there was a black bear. So I'm going to write black bear, but I'm just a GIS specialist. I don't know the scientific name, so I'm going to add that later in the office when I can Google it. And then we know that it's native. I saw one. The status, I don't know, so I'm going to click unknown. Condition, it looked very healthy. I can describe its habitat or any threats to the species, and I can also see if there's action needed. So maybe yes, maybe I need to install a sign that says watch out for bears. Anyways, I'm going to submit that. And then while I saw this bear, I kind of startled it and it ran back into a cave. So I'm also going to collect this cave because I did not know it was there before. So I'm just filtering for cave. This is the landscape feature. I'm going to click cave. Again, I will add a park name, and we do not want the public to see this because it is remote and off trail. I don't want people bushwhacking to get there. I can give it a name if I want to, a description, the condition, actions needed, and also I can have the Access 2030 team review this asset to see if it's accessible or not. And we know that it's not because there's no trail to it. So I'm going to click no, and then I'll submit. All right, so just now you can see how your management and your asset inventory can work on field maps. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen right now.
Actually, yeah,
And
let's I'll take a quick look at that one more time if you don't mind.
okay, yeah.
That seems like quite the day for you guys. I mean, you got blackberries, Sipsy got her own trail named after her. That seems like a lot of fun. While you guys are in there, you probably noticed that some of the forms are kind of long. Let's pull up the form for the vegetation and invasives plot that was there. So this form, as you notice, has a lot of detail, and that's because the Division of Natural Areas helped us develop this. So if you're with state parks, consider yourself lucky that you don't have to actually fill in all this information. But maybe if you work for natural areas, you're probably pretty familiar with doing all these different things about wind direction, all that kind of thing. But it's really cool. So these fields are optional. So if you are someone that's really curious, like maybe you wanted to see whatever you put in here, you'll be able to filter out later on. So maybe I wanted to see my park over the last 10 years. You know, it's 2033 now, and I want to see all the areas that we treated for glyphosate. So you'd be able to filter in the future and look at all those areas and realize, oof, apparently we probably shouldn't have been using glyphosate back there. We should check to make sure that's not getting in the water sources or something. I don't know, but that's just an idea. But you would also be able to filter by the primary species. So you could look at all around your park where that species occurrence is. So whatever fields that you do fill in, while they're optional, they will help you with filtering later on. So that's the value of putting those in there. I just wanted to, and then, okay, let's talk about the trails. So what is the benefit of marking a trail in one smart park versus using Avenza maps or using your own GPS? There's a couple different reasons you might do any of those. Um, this process is kind of taking the place of what you might have done in Avenza maps in the past. So if you were going on Avenza and tracking multiple trails of areas, maybe you're looking at all the old road beds, or looking at social trails in your park and user trails. Using One Smart Park could allow you to do this. It doesn't mean that you're proposing a trail be added to your state park. It could just be for your internal record to know these are all the paths that people take. Maybe you want to follow deer runs around the park to see the wildlife trails that are being created. So in that case, you might not be rating them moderate or giving them a color or saying that they're proposed. But what's really helpful for us, the GIS team, this kind of helps reduce a bottleneck for us, which is getting the data. So whatever Leah has added here has actually, or will in the next couple minutes, sync to all your guys' phones and to online. And what that means is what she's collecting is going to the GIS office right away. So if you say, hey, I just collected something, we needed to close this trail. And I really want you to close this trail and update the map that's on the park website as soon as possible. Something dangerous happened there. There was a mudslide. We got to mark that as closed. So the ranger could draw this trail without even going on it because there was a mudslide. It's completely gone. They could mark the trail, let us know by an email, and we'd be able to see it right away. Then we can update the park map and it'd be on there. Printed maps will be a little bit different, but it's a great way of saying like if there's a temporary closure or a reroute or something like that, it's a really nice way to get that data over to us. Having the trail surface and difficulty going forward, these are a lot of things that have been asked in the past. And when Michael Meister did his big trail assessment between like 2016 and 2019 with all the parks, a lot of this information was getting collected. But in the last few years, we haven't been focusing on that as much. Going forward is going to be really nice for the accessibility team and marketing to be able to tell how many trails we have that actually have a hard surface material that are stroller friendly or wheelchair friendly. How many of our trails are considered difficult? Whatever you rate as difficult could help us update all trails listings and things like that. So there's a lot of value in kind of standardizing what we want to collect about our trails going forwards and a lot of different applications of where those things would be reached. And yes, Peggy, you just asked, this is for internal use. Everything that's marked right now is internal. We haven't shared anything publicly. In the long run, we'd love to make a public version that shows things that we've designated as public view. So if that cave all of a sudden became a landmark that Leah wanted to show off at her park, she could turn that to on. Right now, that's not going to do anything if she turns public view to yes. But in the future, we'd be looking for all the assets that are categorized as public view, like visitor centers and museums and scenic overlooks and waterfalls. And we could put those on the public viewer. Maybe we'd have an internal list of the 5 different sinkholes in our park that we kept as not public view, but would be helpful for search and rescue and new seasonal rangers to know what's on our park. So if we ever have to go looking for a lost person, check down in those pits real quick. All right, Leah, I'll let you continue on with your demo and let me know if you want me to pull up anything on the data viewer if you got it.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna switch over to the data viewer now. So I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. Okay, so my field work is done. I'm back in the office. So now I'm going to pull up what we call the Smart Parks Data Viewer. It's essentially the same thing that you're looking at in field maps, but it's on your computer. All right. Andrew, is that showing?
Yep, looking good to me.
Awesome. So you can see just within seconds, that data that I just collected in front of you is already in Smart Parks Data Viewer, which is awesome. So people in the office can see what you're doing out in the field. All right, so let's say that this is that wildlife point, the black bear, and I didn't know the scientific name. So I'm going to click the ... next to an existing feature, and I'm going to open Smart Editor. So not only can you edit and create features in field maps, you can also do it in the office. So say it's a rainy day like today, if you know where things are and you can use imagery or topo, go ahead and start adding those features. So if I scroll down to scientific name, you can see over here, I Googled it. So I'm just going to update that record. And I'm going to click over here, save. So now that record shows it. Let's say that on my way out, I saw another bear sighting. So I'm going to search wildlife point, and I can drop a point where I saw it over here. And I can write black bear. There was one. Let's see. We're going to pick a park. And as you can tell, it's the same form that you saw on field maps. And then I'm going to make sure public view is no and click save. So that's just a simple way to add new features while you're in the office. What's really cool, so say this vegetation management area, say that I had proposed I spray this whole area, but I didn't want to. I can actually edit this polygon in the field to what I actually sprayed. And then maybe next year I go back and I want to spray the same thing, and I can see that polygon get smaller as our English ivy goes away. Andrew, anything else on smart parks you want me to show?
Yeah, just that looks awesome. Maybe give a quick little tour around of the different features that are included in the smart parks, and maybe how you get to this website.
Sure. So first off, you can find this website going to our mapping hub, and you'll go to Park Ops, and make sure that you are signed in using your Esri GIS, ArcGIS license, or this will not show up. So it's called the Smart Parks Data Viewer. It'll open up like this, and it's a lot of data. So give it a second and it will load and you'll get a splash screen. So as I zoom in, you're going to start seeing things populate, and you'll get a splash screen that kind of gives you special features, resources to our videos, and what we're working on right now. So you can see statewide we've collected a lot of data, but there's still a lot to collect. Down here at the bottom are your main tools. So this is your layers. You can click on and off to take them on or off your map. And if you scroll down, we get really deep into historically collected GIS data, like that time they made you collect all those picnic tables, that's in here. All the grills, that's in here. And if you scroll down to the very bottom, you'll start to see imagery and topo options, which is really helpful. So maybe I want to look at imagery, and that will load in. Or maybe I want to, let's see, we even have the T.leaf off imagery, which is nice. Let's go down to terrain. See if it loads. There it goes. So now I can look at sinkholes if I want to, or old road beds. Okay, so we're gonna close out of that layer list and we're gonna go to editor. This is that smart editor that I have just demoed for you. So if you wanna create or edit features, open that up. Filter. So if you want to filter, these are our three main layers you can filter that we have set up easily. However, if you want to create your own, just create a custom filter down here. You can select what layer you want to filter. You can add an expression where maybe you're looking for all park assets that are, let's see, basketball courts. And it'll zoom out and it'll show you all those basketball courts, that extent. All right, so I'm going to turn that off and close out. The next thing is draw. So if you want to, this is really good for making custom maps. So if I zoom in here, let's go over here. I'm going to turn these base maps off. So there we go. It loads. All right, so say I want to add a little point. Let's do a pin over here. Or I want to say like, oh, the storm hit this area. And then we're gonna use the print button. So this will actually print a custom park map. You can add or remove the data that you want visible. You can add your draw graphics. So those are your text, those text options or polygons or those pins that I dropped. And it's going to print you a PDF. It's actually a GeoPDF of this map extent that you're seeing now with a legend and a north arrow and a scale bar, just like Andrew and I would make. So if you need a quick map for a special event or for maintenance staff, you can create that using this website. And lastly, we have add data. So if you have your own shapefile, you can add that in there. We have a measure tool if you want to measure a feature, you can do that. And lastly, it's those base map galleries that we talked about on field maps too.
Awesome. That all sounds good, Leah. I'll take it from here. I want to show off while we have a second. A couple people have been doing some really cool GIS work around the state. Some of our rangers in the field. So I'm going to plug on over here to the Smart Parks Data Viewer again. And I just want to give a shout out because there's people that have kind of taken this concept and really started rolling with it. Leah, can you give a hand if you can see the screen?
Yep, you're good.
All right. So Indiana over at Old Stone Fort, it's kind of fun for me and Leah. We do look around the state just to see who's starting to use the One Smart Park concept, and just wanted to give her a shout out too. She started collecting the waterfalls, and this is that whole idea. Like, imagine if our national park map sort of style thing could one day showcase all like the museum and the different waterfalls in our park. And it kind of goes beyond the standard paper map. It can go into more detail. We can have pop-ups. Maybe there would be, we could always attach like a 360 photo or video or an audio clip to this. I've got vision someday of being able to add, like, oh, we put a point for an aviary. Well, let's have a story behind that about how did we acquire that owl? What's its success story? What does it sound like? What's the video? So the things that you're posting on YouTube and Facebook, attaching those files to some kind of interactive map for the public to use, that'd be really cool. But just wanted to show what this kind of looks like as someone starts to build it out. It's really cool. Over in West Tennessee, Lindsay, I see that you're on the call here. I just wanted to give you a shout out for doing some really cool work with GIS. We're taking notice and it's looking awesome. And so that brings me to the next layer that I wanted to talk about, which is signage. Again, none of this is coming from the top about things that you have to go out and collect. So these are opportunities. I know some of you guys get this in your work orders and your IPP. You want to create a signage inventory of your park so that you can decide what things you want to replace at some point. Lindsay's gone around and documented all the signs in her park. And let's get in here. Let's find a good fun one. So yeah, there are different types for the signs. We have directional, interpretive, and there's one more category. I'll show you in a second. And here it is, the status and the sides. And here's a photo that documents what that sign actually looks like. So as you can tell, people have had a little fun with this sign. So it might be time for a replacement and maybe a standardization of what those signs look like. If you know how many, maybe if we did a filter of needs replacement, we'd be able to see, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. We have 25 signs that we want to replace at this part of the park, and that gives you a good estimate. A lot of this in the past has been done in Excel sheets, and I know just over at Long Hunter, they've started this effort of doing a signage inventory as well. You can see some of the signs located here. And this is a directional one. Let's see, there was another fun one. Let's see. This is just a general welcome sign that has the rules and regulations for that area, park hours and stuff. But this is a really nice way too. Like imagine what you could do is, even if you say it's a rainy day like today, what if I wanted to say, these are all the spots I want to do new interpretive signs? And so for the park signage layer, I can edit this on the data viewer. I'll have Leah show you how you do it on the One Smart Park mobile app in a second. But you can pick if you want to do an informational sign, directional, or interpretive. And interpretive is more about telling the stories and we'll have photos. Directional is really about left, right, straight ahead, what's in that area. And then informational will have like, park rules, description of the site. Information can kind of blend the interpretation a little bit and directions, but usually you pick it lies somewhere in between these two. But so yeah, if I wanted to mark all the places where I might want some future interpretive signs, maybe I'm going to do one of those tree identification trails where I have 10 different stops of all the trees and their species names. I could put it in here, an interpretive sign, and we would mark the status as proposed. And currently, I think I need to add proposed to this list. I'm just realizing I don't have it in there, but removal or needs replacement, you can kind of see all those different status in there. What's also cool is like as we build up this signage inventory and we think about years from now, we're kind of trying to build that foundation. So having a last replacement date will be helpful. So if you do put in like 10 new signs, say, hey, we replaced them in 2023. That way they can know in 10 years from now, like, okay, this thing might be deteriorating and time for some changes. And I wanted to give a props over to Eric at Montgomery Bell too, who helped us come up with this form. He talked a lot about the different dimensions they might be using. And it's still okay if your park has something different and you're not necessarily using this form, totally fine. This is just to help people with a little bit less GIS experience contribute and have like preset forms and know what things they might want to be looking out for. And one thing, I don't know if we mentioned this before, but yes, we can attach photos, but you can also attach files. So if you had a design for this interpretive sign, maybe you did a little SketchUp in PowerPoint or Microsoft Word about the text that you wanted to include there. Maybe you had someone who used to live on that property on like an old homestead site, send in photos of what it used to look like, or what recreation looked like here in the 1950s. You could start to attach all those different files and photos to that one location. And yes, we can keep things in filing cabinets, but this is a really cool way that we can explore the park, and maybe the public could someday be able to look at slideshows of the different photos that exist at these places. I'm going to cancel out of there, and then I'm going to talk about one more feature in here, and then we'll jump back into the field map. So also at Long Hunter, you'll notice a little red flag. So what could that mean? The red flags, there's a couple different types represent boundary reviews. So we have a layer, we're calling it boundary review right here. And it's got two different styles assigned to it. So when we're talking about boundary reviews, we're not talking about a full in-depth boundary survey running meets and bounds. This is about just patrolling the perimeter and seeing what's going on and helping to document different issues. Also a way for us to document the different markers because a lot of our staff, they might know off the top of their head, or they might have old hand-drawn maps of where that marker should be. But sometimes trees grow and nature takes over and it's hard to find these things again. Some of them aren't easily locatable using metal detectors and things like that. So this is a way for us to start building an inventory of where our markers are in GIS. So if you happen to be doing a boundary review someday, you could go out and mark these markers and encroachments. And so what does that look like? For a long hunter, this was a really cool one I liked. So they documented, this was Aaron. Shout out to you, Aaron. He was documenting that there was a deer stand, a climber that was put on facing the park, and that's something that was illegal. And so he wanted to document that that was a type of encroachment there. And especially our lakefront properties and stuff like that, there's all sorts of weird things that happens with people making their own beaches and stuff. So really good to be able to have a way to do that. So if I want to do this from the field, maybe someone reported it to me, a visitor saw something, and I have a general idea of where that is. I can choose boundary review, and I'm going to mark boundary encroachment. You get where we're going with all this stuff. Pick the park or natural area name, and the two types are either an encroachment or a marker. And we have a bunch of subtypes too. So these subtypes are more related to the markers, but we can talk about we can both make, and this one we kind of just want to put notes in, but let's pretend that instead of a encroachment, we actually found a monument, a marker. I would pick maybe that it's a post or an iron pin or one of those carsonites. And the last time that it was reviewed, so that we can kind of see like, okay, we patrolled this much of our boundary. One thing that'll probably jump in your mind is like, how can we stream where we've patrolled? Currently, we don't really have a way to do that, but we're trying to think of different ways. Maybe we use like the align feature instead of like trail planning, we do boundary reviews where you could mark the area that you've walked so that you can see over time how much of your park that you've covered. So if you were doing, if you went out there and you were expecting to find a marker because someone told you there's one on this corner and you didn't see it, maybe you'd say missing or incorrect placement or replacement needed. And then imagine we'd be able to filter down to all the markers that need replacement, put in order to get those. And again, you can upload photos. So if there is an encroachment, you can document it. You could attach emails about your correspondence with legal or the landowner, things like that, and how it was resolved, and kind of build up this history of what's been happening at the park. Again, these are just ideas that have come from you guys, the staff, of things that you want to do in your park. And I just think it's really cool what people are doing. Okay, with that, I will let Leah take over physically with the One Smart Park viewer, and I'll kind of walk through what that looks like on the form. We'll start with signage in just a second.
Hey Andrew, we've got some questions in the chat.
Okay, I'll answer those while you get those going. Hey, Chris, could you explain a little more? What is a G code file or a CNC? You're welcome to chat or say it out loud, or we can talk about it after as well. Okay, I'll continue on while Chris puts in some.
Andrew,
Oh yeah, go
I
for it,
think
Chris.
I think this is Michael Meister. I think what Chris is talking about, I don't think it's Chris. I think they mentioned it's another employee at the park.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I believe they're talking about a CNC as far as like a wood routing table. So the specific exact router file in order to make a specific sign design.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. Yeah, you could upload any kind of, I believe, any type of file to that sign. What you do with it, I don't know, but you'd be able to keep it as a catalog for future if you wanted to, if you needed to grab that file again and kind of keep it in one place. So I think that would work in that case. No problem, Michael. Thank you. Okay, so real quick, we'll open up just the signage form so I can show you what it looks like if
There's
you're doing.
one more from Peggy.
Oh, sorry.
Does this populate a separate database or does all the information live on the map system?
Right now it lives on, yeah, this is a great point. So it kind of lives on the map system. It lives on Smart Parks Data Viewer. But if you wanted any of this information, say you wanted signage, you can grab this layer from ArcGIS Online and put it in any custom map of your own. And that's what's really cool about it. It doesn't have to stay on this map. You can use these layers for other sources. You can download them. You could filter the wildlife things to say bear sightings recorded in Tennessee state parks and export that to Excel to use, or put it on your own map to see a heat map. So whatever we're contributing to these statewide layers, you can download. You don't have to worry too much about things like messing up. Me and Leah back up things pretty regularly, but they're available for your use, and you can filter to a park or to the whatever management area that you want. I hope that helps with your question. Okay, let's take a quick look at what the form for signage looks like. So again, if you're only going to be collecting signage for the day, you might, if you hit cancel and go out of here, you might choose to turn off all the layers that are not signage. And that might make it easier to search things. It's not about storage on your phone, right? At this time, we don't have enough on here that's slowing things down. But yeah, maybe you turn off only the things that you want to collect that day. The benefit of having these all turned on is we're trying to make it so that if you're out in the field, you could collect anything that you see. In the past, you'd have to open up a different survey, 123, or collector to collect any different things separately. But using ArcGIS field maps allows you to do that all at once, whatever you want. So we're going to collect signage. So we'll hit that plus button, search for the word sign, and see what comes up when we search sign. All right, you'll notice that a couple other things do show up. So in park, for under park assets, you could kind of mark this in two locations, but we have park entrance sign as a park asset only because we know that a lot of visitors like to take pictures of the entrance sign. So we'd love to know where all those are so that you could document and promote them. And we can attach a picture of our entrance signs to our GIS database. So someone could come in and download all 57 state parks entrance signs and use them on your Facebook posts and stuff like that. So if I want to do a directional sign, I'm going to click the yellow one. And this is the form. It looks very, very similar to everything we've seen today and what I showed you on the data viewer. But the cool thing is you can keep editing stuff. So if Leah submitted a point of a signage and maybe she leaves the park because she's going on to something better, she decided to go out to East Tennessee and leave central office behind, I can always come in later on and edit that. It does allow you to delete things too. So if someone made something that's no longer relevant, you can go in and delete that. All right, let's show the boundary review layer real quick too. All right, so you're going to choose the green or the red one. Let's choose the green one. It's exactly like we talked about online, but just showing you how it looks in the field. Okay, and last but not least, I saved 10 minutes to get to utilities. I know I talk a lot, so utilities has been one of the more complex ones to build out. And I want to thank folks like Jordan and Chris and a whole bunch of folks who have been helping us build these out. Everybody over at Paris Landing where we did some test runs. So far, as of this week, all we have that you can map are water lines and potable water, pressurized water lines and water points. So that's really nice. But we want to expand that to include sewer and electric and stuff like that and gas utilities, but just haven't gotten there yet. These have been the first two demos. So if I do type in water, you'll see all sorts of different park assets and landscape features, but we really want to look at the two at the bottom. So let's do a potable water point. And what that might mean is a water shutoff valve. So if you're getting water from your city, so it was really funny when we went out to Paris Landing, we were trying to go out and locate their water shutoff valves so we could drop points to kind of do this demo. When we got out there, there was water gushing out. Somehow or another, the key had gotten turned and there was water coming out of the ground. And right then, people were calling around saying, okay, who knows, where's the water valve that shuts off the water that's going to this location? In the future, we're hoping that GIS would help you solve that, because you'd be able to say, hey, this valve is connected to this line, and it feeds so-and-so. So with a few quick calls, we were able to do that. But if you're dropping a water line, you're going to go for the park name, say it's existing, sorry, water point. And then there's a couple other fields that might be interesting to you. Let's see. So yeah, we have different types: meters, pressure regulators, gate valve, butterfly valves. You could talk about the supplier, like, is this coming from the city? Is it coming from, you guys know more than I do on that. If in these industries, like utility industries, they are very curious about like model numbers and material and the manufacturing things in case they ever need to take this stuff out of the ground. For you guys, you don't have to get into as much detail, only as much as you have available and want to. We're not, the ArcGIS field maps is only going to give you like a 2 to 5 foot range of accuracy. We're not getting down to inches with that. So that's important to remember. As you can see, the position source of how that was located, the most common one is going to be an employee memory or like a hand-drawn map or estimated. And we're just trying to start to build out general locations to know where things are and what feeds what, so that we can communicate it with different staff. And if you show up from a different park someday, and you're there for an event and water starts blowing out of the ground, anybody can pull up the smart park, one smart park on their phone that's our staff, and see all this information for a different park. Emergency contact numbers are great. Owner, install date, last repair dates, all things that might be useful for marking utilities. Okay, let's try to fly across the state to Paris Landing real quick so we can show them what one of the collected points looks like. And you can actually see a little water point showing right over there by Kentucky Lake showing up. All right, we're going to go to the ones right by the highway there. So here was a cluster of about 5 different water valves all in one place that control the water from the city that's going there and helps to put out fires. So really important stuff here. Let's click on one to see what was collected. So yes, perfect. This park went through and put on like little metal tags with a different number that said which number each of their units were. So this was valve 57. We know what kind of key it was. It was a large square. We can see who was the last editor or maybe the creator. And if we had put photos on there, you'd be able to see photo attachments as well. Any point, we can go in and edit these. All right, let's do something different. Let's use the plus button to draw a new water line. And I wanted to give a shout out to Jordan because I know that he started to use this. Jordan, it's been built out a little bit more in the last couple of days so that you can start to do this a little bit more. And we're going to try to work on other utilities as well. So you'll see that potable water line. And this is really nice. So if you're trying to map a campground, some things are going to water spigots versus fountains versus the main line, or small services. So we have a couple different types. Leah could do this just dropping points, or you could stream your location. So if it was being put in new, maybe before it gets buried again, you walk the line so that you can see it and get a good read on its location. You can pick the diameter, the material, abandoned, needs replacement, all that kind of things. We're not trying to make you guys be a utility company, but these are just some options if you want to be able to document that stuff. And before I run out of time, I'll steal the screen over to show you a couple examples too of what's going on. So back in a handful of years ago, Cedars Lebanon, and Tim, so you actually helped get a full survey of all the utilities for the park done at very high accuracy, or for the most part. Some of this came up as memory, but in a dream world, maybe someday we'd be able to have this much data for a park. Can you guys imagine the collection effort that would take to get this? But some general things are really nice to be able to see the direction of flow and how things are connected through campgrounds. So we're just looking for kind of general ideas. How does water get from certain buildings to others? We got sanitary lines that connect these different buildings and water lines. But another thing that's happening, so we just talked to Chris at Bledsoe Creek, and he sent in Michael, who's just on here, who sent over these design plans. So with these, we might be doing some guesstimates about where things are, but we might be able to trace these over. We're going to do another training, or at least I'm going to make a video that shows you how to georeference, put this map over our One Smart Park so that you can mark points using that without even having to go out in the field. So that's our end goal, but it does take a little bit of work, but you guys now have the ability to do that, which is georeference documents and add your points. And it doesn't have to be a utility map too. It could be an old historic map, like when we talk about Johnsonville and having the old communities. If you have some old topo maps and stuff, there's a way now that you can georeference those using ArcGIS Online to start to draw points of what infrastructure used to exist there. Electric utility points, Chris or Michael, hopefully will be available probably in the next 3 weeks or so. If you stay on us and email us about them again and again, that's the best way for us to get it done. Our bandwidth is a little spread right now, but we would love to get this stuff taken care of because now we've kind of completed all the layers that we want to do. And so I'm gonna stop sharing real quick and talk about that real quick. So we've done most of our layers. We don't have that many left to share with you guys. The last one that we do have, though, is going to be rare species and then building out the rest of our utilities. And we've got about 8 different utility ideas that we're trying to build up. But it definitely takes examples. It's really helpful for folks to send us design plans or previously collected data so that we can see the kind of standards of what people have been collecting before. And we're going to be working with Roger's group on getting rare species data into the hands of a handful of rangers that are interested to help them know what kind of biological things are at their park. And with that too, we've had rangers reach out who want to do like random wildlife plot surveys and things like that. So if you're interested in that for wildlife or plants and drawing grids over your parks, you can always reach out to us and we're happy to build some special projects. So I got 1 minute left and me and Leah will be hanging here. So if you'd like, please put any questions you've got in the chat. We'll hang on here for a little bit, but thank you guys all for listening today and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you, Leah and everybody. This presentation will be sent out as well with a couple of links that are on here, but otherwise, most everything it will be in the video that we send out. And we've got a lot of special park projects we're working on too. I see Justine's on the call. We're still trying to find some time to get back into building a bigger habitat management system, which will be really cool. And just a whole bunch of different ideas that parks have proposed. But this has been a product of the last 2 years, basically, of kind of standardizing what more parks are interested collecting all together. All right, if you don't have, oh, go for it, Leah.
Chris this sent something in the chat. Let me check real quick what the iOS requirements are. Yep, so you'll need at least iOS 14.5 or later.
Andrew, I did have one question relative to One Smart Park.
Go for it, Eric.
That I know when y'all did one of the demos a while back, y'all put like some dots and lines and stuff on our map, and they're still there.
That's if you see those, I think you should be able to delete them yourself. Otherwise, I will try to go hunt them down real quick and delete them.
Yeah, it's one I don't think I could delete them.
Okay.
But basically they're down where our visitor center is what it is. But it was one of those early presentations y'all did, and like I said, down by the visitor center, I know on mine it was showing up. There's like a dot and maybe a couple of lines or something like that.
Okay, perfect. I'll take a look to try to get that cleared up. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we've started to do them now around our houses because we realize that we're kind of leaving things behind in parks sometimes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, Paige. Yes. So, have you guys found a way to autofill certain fields either from previous entries or other map layers? So, yes, if you click on an existing feature, you have the ability to copy either the location, the attributes, or both into a new feature. And then if you are talking about autofilling something from a map layer, they just came out with a new feature that you can write code to pull a value underneath that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've been using our field collection map, and if you're in one place in one day and you're having to enter the date and the location over and over again, I was like, it seems like there'd be a way to just like copy previous or like use the same, like some of that information is going to be the same with multiple features that you collect in a day or whatever. So just trying to like make it a quicker, easier process.
Yeah, for sure. If it's date related, like we have code that you can put in the field to say like auto fill today's date and time. But if it's something else, then I can see that being kind of annoying.
Hey, Angela, I'm just responding to you real quick about how to get logged in through your phone. I'm trying to upload a guide. I think it's already attached to this meeting, so it's not letting me send it again, but I'll send it out in an email as well. But basically, you're going to want to get ArcGIS field maps for your phone. You might already have it if you had to do stuff for that comprehensive planning project. But yes, you'll get that, and you're going to log in to field maps using your license, your username. If you're already logged in and it says in your top left, your profile button, it says Barge client or something like that, you'll want to log back out and use your state parks username. And once you're in there, you're going to search for One Smart Park. Again, there will be a guide, and I'll try to send it along into this chat so you can get it, or I'll send it directly to you by email on how to get started with that.
Yeah, and Paige, we just started experimenting with an iPad in the field, so we'll touch base and tell you if we like it more. Right now, I like it more just because like it brings up the attribute table on the left side rather than taking up my whole screen. It's quite nice.
Yeah, we were just looking at options because like we don't have state phones, most of us, so some of us can fit the map on our personal phone and some of us can't. So we're trying to find like a field device that we can have the map all loaded on. And I was thinking tablet of some sort. So yeah, let me know how that works for you guys.
Yeah, feel free to reach out because we did a lot of digging before picking, so.
Awesome, thanks.
And we're also using that's one thing, if your park or you're interested in like kind of high accuracy stuff, you can use these bad elf GPS receivers or these little yellow external GPSs that connect by Bluetooth. We're still trying to figure out if you can connect things like Trimble units and stuff. We don't have one personally to try it out, but we'd be curious about connecting those to field maps. But this bad elf receiver tends to work pretty good. We kind of used it alongside a Trimble unit and got pretty decently compared results. But still, there's a nice graph if you ever look up Bad Elf GPS receivers that shows like cost to accuracy ratio, and this is in like the $500 range versus $2,000 to $4,000 range, which gets you down to inches, which like utility companies use. So that's what we're working with right now.
Yeah, that's what we were looking at too, as like, that. Is it its own thing, or is it something that like you add that receiver to a tablet, or you can, if somebody takes their phone instead, they could add that receiver to their phone and. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you just bring this receiver out in the field with you, put it on your head if you can, or as high as you can get a signal, and you say connect to Bluetooth, and it will replace your phone's GPS signal with that. So if you're on Google Maps, you get really high accuracy Google Maps for the day or something like that. But yeah, it's been pretty nice to have. And if you ever want to test it out, let us know. I think we've got 1 or 2 more that you could test out in the field before you look into buying one.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, just reach out to us. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We're going to send out another survey request too. So we got a lot of great feedback this past spring. I mentioned this earlier by coming out to visit a lot of the parks and do some field work. We didn't get to reach everybody. We want to reach more. So this little form will send out, ask you about what kind of things you'd be interested in learning, what months might you be available in the fall and winter for us to come out and do some hands-on training together and test some things out. It doesn't have to be one of our statewide layers. It can be your own custom projects. We did a lot of that setup for Jason over at South Cumberland. We're excited to see how that comes out. And yeah, just work with you guys one-on-one for the day. All right. Well, thank you guys. If you have any more questions, just put them in the chat and we can reach out to us by email, and we'll hope to get all these resources out to you within the next week or so. Thanks, Leah, for showing everybody on the iPad, and I hope you guys have a great week. Take care.